Trigger warning. The following podcast contains content that may be deeply disturbing. You will hear first-hand accounts from parents and family members who have lost children to filicide, the murder of a child by a parent or caregiver. These stories are raw, emotional, and shared from the perspective of those who have lived them. They include details of unimaginable loss, system failures, and trauma. Please take care while listening. If at any point you need to pause, stop, or step away, we understand. Welcome to Voices Against Filicide. I'm your host, Hope Hooton, a mother who has walked this journey and an advocate turning my pain into purpose. This podcast sheds light on filicide cases, statistics, who these children were, the warning signs missed, and the advocacy being done in their honor, and so much more. Together, we speak the truth, honor their lives, and fight for change. Before we go any further, I want to take a moment to honor two of the brightest lights I've ever known, my children, Alec and Lydia. Alec with his love for Pokemon and his kind heart, and Lydia full of joy and her love of unicorns. They were more than my whole world. They were joy in human form. Their laughter, their hugs, their imaginations, all of it lives on in me, in this podcast, and in the work I do every day to protect children and raise awareness. This podcast is for them. It's for every child whose voice was silenced too soon. Alec and Lydia, you are my why, and I will never stop fighting in your name. Thank you for joining me today, and let's get right into today's episode. So today I have a very special guest with me, Danielle Pollock. She is the co-founder of the National Safe Parents Organization, and I am so glad to have you on, Danielle. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Danielle, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background? What got you into co-founding this, or are you the co-founder or the founder?
I'm the co-founder. I did it together with some other leading advocates who are very interested in this issue.
Okay. So kind of your background and what made you kind of go this route?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is really exciting. And I'm so glad that you're doing this podcast. It's so needed. I'm the policy manager at the National Family Violence Law Center at GW Law, which is directed by Professor Joan Meyer, who's a leading legal scholar in this space. And so I began working on these issues related to family court and child abuse and risks to children almost 10 years ago from the policy perspective. Previous to that, I was doing policy work in Europe for many years on an unrelated issue. And so I had exposure to the New York City family courts after I moved back to the U.S. from Europe. And I was appalled by what was happening in those courts. You know, that they were not looking at abuse evidence. They were punishing people who were trying to protect their kids. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. They weren't following the rules of evidence. There were no guardrails. Judges just seemed to have totally wide discretion. Court professionals were doing all kinds of just bizarre things. And the children were not being protected when it was these pretty clear-cut cases. And so I decided to turn my policy expertise and experience to this issue. And I was trying to figure out, what's the best way to do this issue. And I committed to trying to change the laws in the country that dictate these courts, because they just seem so broken and doing such a terrible job of protecting children adequately. And so I started to talk with a constitutional scholar, Professor Marcy Hamilton, who is the founding director of Child USA. And her focus is statute of limitations, changing the statute of limitations for child sexual abuse survivors and getting accountability and, suing both individual predators, but also institutional predators. So like churches and the schools and, these really problematic institutions that have this long history, of abusing and allowing abuse to continue. So because that issue is a state issue in the same way that child custody is, like each state has their own statute of limitations laws around that issue, and each state has their own child custody laws that look slightly different from their neighboring states. I wanted to see how she was doing it. She was kind of making a sea change in this area of law. So I learned from her some of the, how she was doing it on a related issue. And I worked with the Child USA for a couple of years. And I also was part of a local advocacy community. It was called the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Community, which was made up of many lifelong advocates for all kinds of issues related to women and children at the state level. So I learned a lot from them on how to engage lawmakers, talk about these issues, and effectively advance legislation. So that was kind of my starting point. And I knew that we needed really solid empirical research to actually make the policy changes that I wanted to see. Fortunately for all of us, Professor Joan Meyer did this big empirical national study that was, funded by the NIJ and very rigorous. And it is her family court outcome study. And it showed empirically what we all knew was happening in family courts, which is, when a mother brings child, brings abuse claims forward, the family courts are not doing a very good job assessing that. Then when the other side claims parental alienation as a cross claim to the abuse claim, the courts are really favoring and granting custody more broadly to the parent, not the parent who is raising the concerns about abuse, but to the parent who's cross-claiming parental alienation. And this is endangering children we're seeing all across the country. And so once I had her preliminary study, she published the preliminary findings in 2017. I had the piece of empirical research that was nationwide to be able to go and try to get the policy changes and change the statutes all around the country that I wanted to change so that they're more protective of children and safe parents. And we started try to make a model law in Pennsylvania where I'm based. And in that process, as we began that process, Kayden Mancuso was murdered by her dad in my county. The courthouse was 2 blocks from my house. And Kathie, Kayden's mom, was very active. She very actively wanted to speak out, similar to you, shortly after this tragedy. And she really wanted to, use what happened to her to make a change. She didn't want to see this happen to any other children. And, she wanted to do something in Kayden's honor. So I invited her to a policy committee hearing. And I said, do you want to come with me and talk to lawmakers about what happened? We're trying to get these policy changes advanced. And, she was trying to talk to news and talk to people. So I wanted to give her that opportunity to platform her with lawmakers. And she said yes. And this was months after Kayden was killed. So we held a district policy committee hearing. She came and she talked about her case. I talked about the research and the policy aims. And then on the other side, opposing us, was the local bar association. They wanted to circle the wagons and said, we didn't do anything wrong. A gentleman who fought very hard against our reform work for many years. He ran a company that employed a lot of guardians ad litem. He was concerned what we were going to do and policy changes there. And eventually, it took many years. We had to chip away because we were really trying to shift the status quo. We refined a proposed bill in Pennsylvania to try to really change the custody statute so that the primary focus was the safety of children.
Mm-hmm.
We eventually got it done. And within that process, our federal guy, had made a commitment to us, to Kathie and to all of us working on this issue. He said, I'll do whatever I can federally, even though child custody is a state matter. I will do something at the federal level when the time is right. So as we were advancing efforts at the state level, he sort of said, okay, I can help now, yeah? And we said, yes. So then we at the center, myself and Professor Meyer and some other colleagues, we joined together and we devised a federal law. The official name is Keeping Children Safe from Family Violence. And in Article 15, it became part of the Violence Against Women Act of 2022 that Congress enacted. But the nickname is Kayden's Law, because it grew with our congressman out of our district. And Kathie, was a very vocal advocate for it. And so it did some sort of key things that we were seeing were problems all across the country, across states, across jurisdictions. So we're really trying to target sort of these key system failures with the federal Kayden's Law and, get states to improve their laws. And in the meantime, the state Pennsylvania Kayden's Law ever continued. And so now, since federal enactment, we have 10 states, including Pennsylvania, that have adopted those provisions. And we're starting to see good outcomes now. Obviously, not in every case. I mean, sometimes there's just, a terrible court professional or for big problems, corruption in the case. There's nothing you can do. But we are seeing some positive feedback and people reporting, situations that they've been litigating for 6-7 years and the courts were not taking the abuse evidence seriously or not, giving it a priority consideration. And now they're starting to do that. And, and these productive parents are winning primary custody or full custody. And we're also getting some superior court decisions affirming that the lower courts are doing the right thing when they're prioritizing the child's safety. So we're happy that it's been a long, very arduous process. We've obviously had a lot of opposition from people who like the status quo, a lot of professionals and ideologues who like the way things are currently going. And then within that, we of course have a lot of productive parents and kids who absolutely are just crying out change and have been, for years and years and years. So as I was doing the policy work and continue to, I wanted to create an organization where survivor protective parents could come together and really cohere, could talk to each other, and they could understand like what we are trying to do in policy and how they can engage and be actors, at their own state level, engage their lawmakers, get better laws on the books. Obviously, it's something that takes all of us doing this together. And also, I feel like there's so many people who are in court and are just so isolated and terrorized. Court sometimes will gag litigants and they'll say, you can't talk about this to anyone. And of course, attorneys sometimes, say you can't talk to anyone. So it's very isolating. And I think that isolation keeps people scared to really speak out. So that's part of why we created National Safe Parents Organization, to create a community and collaboration among advocates.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, Kathie.
Hi.
So we're kind of in the middle of our conversation. Danielle was talking about National Safe Parents Organization, and she talked a little bit about Kayden's Law and what you guys are doing federally now. So now that you're on, I would love for you to share, if you wouldn't mind, a little bit about Kayden, who she was, and kind of like anything you would like to share with our audience. It's kind of a brief space.
So it's been it's been a long 7 years. It's been now that I'm coming up on almost 8, I don't want to say that I'm not. I look around and I'm like, I should have a 15-year-old daughter, and I don't know what that's like in this world. For $1 million, I couldn't tell you what it's like to have a 15-year-old. I still am stuck in like the butterflies, unicorn part of her life, and I'm like, am I like weird? Like she wouldn't even like unicorns right now. Like I don't even know what she would like, but I can tell you that her brothers probably wouldn't be the stars of her sports teams right now. I could say that it would probably be her that we'd be chasing around this country, and they'd be coming out of the woodwork or whatnot. But I can say that she'd probably still be the fierce little girl that she was, and she'd probably be following her dreams probably better than anything I've ever done in my life. She was very, very, very passionate for a little girl that was 7 years old about things that you just don't expect to see that in small children. I have 5 kids, like I said, and my sons are very passionate about sports, but Kayden was, I don't know, she was a different breed. I hate saying that because I feel like it's like, people are like, oh, you can't say that about your one kid and not the other kids, and what makes them different. But there was something just really different about her. I don't know how to really explain it. I don't really contribute it to my genetics or my factors. There's just so much of her spirit still around, and I think that's going to be like that way forever. She may just forever be that forever 7-year-old. I think she'd be playing whatever sport of choice and probably giving me a heart attack with the clothes she was wearing. But I mean, I don't know. I think she's up there, and I hope she's okay and watching over us. I know for sure she's here. She's in all of my kids. I see her, and even this fat moose behind me who's about to eat her Christmas pillows. I'm gonna have a heart attack. So that's the thing. Like, this is all I have left. Like, this is what is left of my daughter. Like, these were her Christmas dresses. Like, Christmas was always our favorite. I've tried to like kind of not be so Christmassy, but I can't do it. And so it was like the one thing she loved. So
yeah. Was that always something that was easy for you right off the bat, is to celebrate holidays, or did it come?
Yeah, she loved Christmas. There's a video of her dancing in my Christmas tree skirt, and I actually like, she was more into it than I ever was, if that makes sense. So my mom was an interior designer, but so you couldn't like touch her trees. Like, she wouldn't have like a Griswold Christmas village, which is over there in her house. Let's just put it that way. But in my house, like, we could decorate however we wanted, and we did. So I still hold every single, I'm a psycho over my ornaments, like, because that's all I have left. Like, I had these little pillows here, and we just came out, and these were her pajamas, like one of the last pajamas. This was like one of, like, I was like a big psycho on Christmas pictures every year. They're all still on my mantle. So these are like, this is what I have left. And that's what, I don't know, I'm starting after 7-8 years. Like, I'm getting angrier that that's all I'll ever have. And I'll never see, like, I watch my kids progress. Like, you can see pictures over there. Mm-hmm. Those are the last of the 3, but over here are my boys this year.
Yeah.
And she's not there. That just, I don't know. There's my Griswolds. If that, like, so I'm like, and we still have her elves. I don't know if you can see, but.
Oh, yeah.
So we still bring out her elves. Those are hers right there. They were Sophia and James. So we still bring out a lot of those traditions. I mean, it's hard not to. When that's all you really have left. Like, this was one of her dresses, and this is probably one of our last Christmases, which pisses me off. I mean, I'm just starting to get mad, and I don't know if I should say that on the podcast, but
no, it's your real reaction.
It's starting to get like really like, okay, it's been another year. Okay, we've done, now it's like, you're sitting here 7 years later, and it's like, this sucks. This like really sucks, and nothing's ever gonna it's never gonna get better or different than this. And I just kind of try to, I don't know, be okay with it, but try to not want to punch people in the throat. I don't know. That sounds bad, but
I love your honesty so much. I definitely can relate about everything that you're saying, because I'm in the same position. I lost Lydia, and yeah, they're frozen in time. And you were talking about Kayden only knowing her for butterflies and unicorns. That's exactly, Alec will always like Pokemon. Lydia will always
Yeah.
like unicorns because they're not going to get any older.
And it's so weird when you're like, wait a minute. And people kind of like, they have to. Everybody move. I've moved on. It's like I've sat here for the past almost 8 years and I'm frozen in time too. But I'm not. My kids are getting older, but I feel like everyone kind of got on the grief train and got off and left us there, and there's nowhere for us to go. And it's kind of surreal when you look around and it's like everything's the same, but it's so not. Like, I mean, I'm going on 8 years now. Some people weren't even like born. Like these kids weren't born. Like I'm not even sure how old your kids were, but some of these kids weren't even around or born. They don't know who the heck she is. It's like, how do you go back and start talking about now 8 years ago where it's like, it just, and then I think it just adds more to my, I don't want to say that I sit here and I'm angry all day, but like I kind of am pissed off. Like, given the circumstance, when it's like, well, no, wait, my daughter should be a freshman. She should be almost 16. We should be celebrating her 16th birthday. I got to celebrate her 16th birthday at the courthouse. Like, that infuriates me. It's very frustrating. And I think people are kind of like, you should have gotten over it a long time ago. They don't want to hear a word about it. I don't know if I wasn't advocating or advocacying or whatever it's called. I don't know how much I'd actually be talking about her, because I think people would just be like, lady, shut the hell up. Like,
I don't care. I will.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you don't care, because I was going to say I don't care either.
Like, I will talk about them until I'm on my deathbed and I'm dying.
Good.
That they're gonna still be a part of my.
I see another thing. Like, when I'm like 87 and she should be 80.
Mm-hmm.
Or not. Yeah. That's not good math. You know what I mean?
I was like
I'm like, I'm 87 and she should be like 60 something. I don't care. Like, she's still my baby. She's still my.
Yeah. And I love how you keep her memory alive in your household, and you said how your other kids talk about her, and she's still a part of your family. So
yeah. I mean, I think that if I kind of maybe didn't. No, I don't know. I don't think my parents would, but I don't think other people would.
I did have a question because we were talking about Kayden's law and kind of going back. What red flags did you see in your family court case that were dismissed, or things that could have protected Kayden from her ultimate, murder? Like,
I look back now and there's so many. That's why people will come to me and I'm like, do not listen to what I did. Like, I obviously did not do the right things, but if I knew the things that I knew now, oh my God, like I look at all these other people's cases, I was like, no, that's not okay. They just blatantly ignored and totally nonchalantly took everything that I said. They were just like, okay. When I look back now, and like, I've reread my transcripts and I've reread a lot of my things and all the court things, and I'm just like, why weren't you freaking screaming? Like, why weren't you like making like a huge, like, no. Like, I was, because I was told I had to be on my best behavior. This. Now I look back and I'm like, F that, man. I would have been screaming from the mountaintops. I would have gone to jail. I would have done so many things. Like, this is not knowing, like, no, sounds bad. I would have taken something. I wouldn't have followed the court orders. I wouldn't have done crap.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's so much in mine that I'm literally sitting there saying, this is wrong. This is like, I look back, you can blatantly, I think I've shown Danielle, you can highlight it, black and white, yellow, pink, whatever highlighter of your choice you want to look at. You can say, no, like right there, that judge is like right there. And I went on for I have 9 transcripts. I mean, I don't know, Hope, if you've ever seen it. Some lovely lady posted my entire.
I did not. No, I don't know a lot about your case.
Posted my entire case on her LinkedIn. So if you ever get, not bored, but I'm sure you have lots of things to do in your life, you can read all this crap, and it's disgusting. Like my PFA hearing, like all of it. And I look back now and I'm like looking at the same exact trends that I read in other people's cases. I was like, no, right there. Like, you should have been like pitching a fit, throwing a fit, karate chopping a sheriff in the face, something, just to get them to listen. But I was like being, mind your P's and Q's, being Miss Polite. No, you should be like, no more Mrs. Polite. Mm-hmm. Like, nothing. I can't even pinpoint one thing, but
Kathie, you were telling them he was a risk. You can
see it and Danielle, I think we've gone, like I've showed you, like I'm literally saying, no, there's something wrong here. No, there's something wrong here. No, there's something wrong here. No, it's not just because I'm being an asshole. No, there's something wrong here. No, there's something wrong here. There's something not like, and I'm saying it and they're just completely ignoring it.
And they had all that evidence of him attacking you, of him threatening.
It didn't matter that we couldn't talk about it, remember? We couldn't even talk about it.
They were like, oh, they originally put Kayden on the PFA and then they made her take Kayden's name off.
That was the lawyer's fault. There was a lot of like things that I didn't know enough because again, like my lawyer,
it's okay.
I shouldn't even say God bless your little heart, but she works with like Giant now. Like, I mean, there was like a lot of horrible things.
I mean, I was in the same position though, Kathie. Like there were so many red flags in my case that like the judge just ignored. And I was like, hey, how about this? How about this? How about this?
Yeah.
And
it's like we look back now, it's like I should have been like now, like Danielle, no, like I don't give AF. Like I'll be like, oh no. Like I don't want to say I had more. I'll say cojones, because that's a Spanish word for ball. Like right now, like because I have nothing. Not that I don't have anything to lose. They could still take me on, kill me, like all that stuff. And they probably want to, but back then I was like, no, I was so afraid of going to jail and getting in trouble and losing custody that I did whatever I thought that I had to do in order to not get that happen. Now I look back, I'm like, F that. That piece of shit was biting people's ears off. No offense. Like getting arrested, I look back, I'm like, if I bit Danielle's ear off in a bar fight, would I have custody of my children? Like, let's be real here. Like, no, I'd still be a TPH. Still. In my rubber flip-flops, like for real.
How about is the judge that oversaw your family court case, are they still litigating on the bench currently?
Oh, he sure is. He got an award last year or two.
Yeah, from the local bar association.
Yeah, that's something that I want to take. There has to be something that keeps these judges accountable. Like we need to do something.
And then like we got all the new, like I call them the new age ones that they just they do whatever they want. They don't care. I mean, we have laws in how many states, Danielle, and they're like blatantly just not following it. Like, how infuriating is that? Like, Kayden's law has Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has Kayden's law, and we still are just, they're just like, oh, we're just not going to apply that today. I'm like, you don't get to pick and choose. Like, can you imagine just picking and choosing the constitutional, like, whatever you want to follow?
Yeah. Some courts are just ignoring it, but some courts are actually following
some
it.
Are. That's the one thing that keeps. I think would say that it would keep me and Danielle. Maybe not. Maybe Danielle's going to keep going because she's the bunny, but energizer, if you will. But there are like I hear so many good stories. I'm starting to think, is it worth the good stories for the bad? Yes, but like it's starting to piss me off.
I think it is. I mean, I want to. I know that I'll get to the point where you're at in my journey. I'm not there yet, but I want to always look for the positive. I know that we can't save every child, right? That's not hypothetical. That can't happen. But I know that we can try to save at least some, and some is better than none. That's kind of my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I have a list. I can't even count them. And I don't want to say that there's not ones that I haven't been able to help because I've rarely heard from them. Like most people that write to me will say, this is happening, or basically last-ditch effort, begging me to help them. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how to help you. Like, look what I don't have. You got to call Danielle. Like,
we're working on a paper at the center that Professor Meyer is going to lead. And so we actually, if anyone's listening out there and you have had good, or any out that's impacted from Kayden's law, let us know at the center.
And it may not even be from like my state. Like I'm very close to the Jersey border. I hear a lot of positivity from Kayden's law from New Jersey. And it's just because like they've heard the story. The lawyers are more in tune to listening over there and they aren't doing it because they have to. They're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Does that make sense? Like they're not like, oh, we have this law. The ones that want to like go against us over here in Pennsylvania are like, we're not going to do it just to be like jerks. But like I've heard it from I don't know if I can say every state in this country because I'd have to go back to geography, but I can say that I've heard a good story from across the world. That sounds crazy, but England, Ireland, Australia, some of the bigger ones. Just so that does give, obviously, me, Danielle, and the people that do this, I like hope. and continuing to do this because you're getting random messages from.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I never thought I'd hear from anyone in another
I mean, like
country.
when you look at a map and I'm like, oh, somebody all the way over, in Africa is listening. Like, I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Like, so we are making an impact.
Colombia. I mean, there's a lot of like bad things that happen to women around. I hate that because then the men come try to wood chip me when I say women, but you know what it is. Like, there's a reason why we have a women count USA, and there's a reason why we don't have a women man count USA. You know what I mean? Like, women are potentially and always are hurt and killed more by men than the other way around. I don't care what Kenneth has to say about that. It's true. It's called statistics. It's called data. It's called evidence. It's called facts. You can't change that. But there ultimately in this world it's an epidemic, and it's real, and it's happening whether they want to believe us or not.
100%.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you kind of giving insight into, all of that information. I think it's really prevalent for my audience to understand that it's happening all over. I think the stigma of, oh, well, Alec and Lydia just, were murdered in Arizona. It doesn't happen in Michigan. It doesn't happen in Florida. It doesn't happen. Like, it does.
Michigan just mailed me a T-shirt. It happens in every state. I can name a kid in every state, and I'm sure, I don't know if you're as crazy, not calling you crazy, but as neurotic as I am, I can tell you, it's kind of like Aaron Barakovich when they're like, oh, you want a number? Give me it. Like, I can spit them off like that. Like, oh, this happened in this state. This happened in Texas. This happened in California. This happened in Ireland, or not, Illinois, Ohio, Wisconsin. Name your state of choice. I can name you a story, and it's
happening all.
Not everybody kind of speaks out, and it's not easy to do so. So Hope, I don't congratulate you. That's a horrible word. What's the word? The good word for I'm proud of you for standing up and speaking out, because it's not easy to do, and a lot of women and people don't do anything, and that's okay. You don't have to do anything. If your kids were killed, Jesus Christ, sit in bed and watch freaking SpongeBob all day. For all I care, who are we?
Yeah, I think that though the ones that are standing up, you and Brandy Maury Pools and Pierce's mom, Leslie Hugh, and the ones that are standing up and trying to make a change, we're trying to do it to save other children. And like you said, not everybody. We don't. However somebody deals with grief is however they deal with grief. Go ahead and sit in bed and watch SpongeBob,
do it. Yeah. Do what you need to.
I hate SpongeBob, but I would watch it if I had to.
Well, I mean, you gave that example, so that
I know. It's a bad example.
But yeah, so so you guys both got connected. Danielle kind of said it at the beginning, when everything happened to Kayden, she kind of saw you making this advocacy and this push in the media, and she kind of came alongside you. So I guess, what is your next steps moving forward, since Kayden's Law has been introduced into Pennsylvania and it's been introduced into 10 other states? I guess what's the next steps, I guess?
Well, I always say you got to call Danielle. She's the smart one. She's the one that tells you what. She's the leadership oriented Barbie, and I don't really know what I play here, but Danielle has a lot of work to do. I'm just kidding.
Hey, all of us. We have 40 states to go, so we need everybody on.
I feel bad that I wish that I was more organized, that I could say that. I mean, we all have a lot of work to still do, because we're still fighting the those trying to take the laws that have already been passed down. I mean, it's like come on, you feel like, oh look, I made it, and then all of a sudden you got a Kenneth in Missouri trying to take the law down, so you got to fight that part. Much less do all this and every single. It's a lot, and I give her all the credit in the world, because she knows darn well that she's the one doing it. I kind of show up, and I Hail Mary in the end, and I don't know what I really do, but I try to help out better. If I had more oriented tasks that, do this, I'd probably be better. But no, I think forever we're going to keep speaking out, and she's the one that just does that on a more calendar oriented basis. Let's put it that way. And
I did have a question. Was Kayden your first kiddo, or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was my first. So I know people are always like, well, maybe I shouldn't have kids with 5 different. I'm like, well, it was 2, and maybe no, I get it all. Trust me, I get every comment on the planet, and then when they say that to me now, I snap back and I'm like, maybe you shouldn't impregnate crazy women. Let's go with that. And they do not know what to say. They are like, oh, I got clutch your pearls over there, Kenneth, and calm down. on Nightline, it explains how I kind of met him. It was like, and we all know how the birds and the bees work. I was 29 years old. It wasn't like I was like a single mom over here on teen pregnancy or whatever that show is. I was older. I knew how things worked. It wasn't like we weren't married. I would have never married a man like that. She just kind of happened, and I now look back and there was a reason for her. And then we were not ever I hate that word, romantically together. It was just, I got pregnant. I lived in my own apartment up until June of 2010. She was born October 2010. This is when the whole, and you'll hear more about this I don't talk about this much publicly because what he did to her is nothing that I say compared to what he did to me. But you will hear about all of the red flags, all of the things he did during my pregnancy, during, all of that part that I don't tend to talk about on like things like this. But there's a huge history that I do have to touch on, and I feel like the only reason that I'm ever going to discuss this is because I know in my heart that if one woman hears what I kind of went through in the beginning, it will absolutely help at least one, right?
Yeah, at least. And I think that it's important. I mean, I'm coming out with a memoir, and this stuff that I talk about in the memoir is really intense, and I do share some of it here on the podcast, but I think it's important for us to share our experiences, because I know, at least with me, I didn't realize that it was as bad as it was until I looked at survivor stories, and then I was like, okay, I need to leave. I need to get out. Like, this is not okay.
I look back and I'm able to connect the dots to and that's why I think now, me writing whatever I'm writing, being able to say, no, this is what it was. This is what happens. This is exactly what you need to look for. I was like, holy crap, this is what he was really doing. This is like a term for it. Like, I don't need to dictionary eyes. I don't even think that's a real word, what happened to me. But if you look back, I don't talk about how he almost killed me 3 times, how he put a bottle on my head and smashed my face. And you haven't really heard me talk about that, have you? No. But there's parts in my story that should have. That's why I say, when people ask me what I did, I said, well, I don't follow what I did. What I did was dead wrong. I'm literally dead wrong. There's a lot of things that I need to touch back. I need to go back to how it all began. Where did I come from? Where did he come from? Where did we all come from? You know what I mean? In order to explain my story in whole. And that's the point of what I'm writing. And I hate the domestic violence community still really mad at me for refusing to call myself a survivor. And I won't, or victim. I just can't give him that title on me, because he's already taken so much. And do I say that to every other person? No. But for me, I'm not calling myself some domestic violence victim, because he strangled me 3 times. That's also a huge part of what I've been learning lately.
Strangulation.
Oh my God, I went to that seminar holy crap. How this is being allowed, and how these prosecutors from California are out there prosecuting midnight stranglers, but yet in our court case, it's not even allowed to be talked about.
Yeah, well, right. Because strangulation doesn't leave any marks or anything, so that's why it's...
Well, I'll tell you, it doesn't leave marks on anybody. And actually in the seminar, they say that the only time you're ever going to see any marks is after in their autopsy. Most of the time you won't see a damn thing until they're dead, because it happens so quick. It happens in 5 to 10 seconds. And then it's considered premeditated murder. I mean, these charges are premeditated murder, but how many times were you I was strangled 3 times. I can speak for probably the rest of this community. They've all been strangled at least 1 time, and not one of them has felony charges. I mean, think about it. These prosecutors were all big hell. I'm here from San Diego and I prosecute midnight stranglers. I hate that I call them that, but I'm sorry, I just have to. But yet they don't transfer into family court. I'm like, how can you have a strangulation charge over here with felony charges, but we're not going to talk about how that plays a role in family court? Oh, I couldn't even go to the day 2, because I was like, I don't want to hear about how you're prosecuting stranglers and you're doing nothing about it in family court. And they had no answer for it. None.
That evidence is not allowed in a lot of times.
Well, Danielle, why isn't it? Can you tell my audience why isn't it allowed in? Why are these things in the court?
No idea.
Well, there's a few reasons. I mean, for one, strangulation has only become a felony newly in many states, and in some states it's still not a felony. So through advocacy, like the field has sort of shifted and demanded that it become felony level. So that's like brand new on the criminal side in many states. But the problem in the civil courts, in family courts, is that, we have this long history of denialism about abuse. And then we have the alienation cross claim to diminish abuse claims or evidence, to just say that, she's making it up, or she's, vindictive or whatever. So we have all these things at play. And then the statutes, the laws that dictate what courts have to do, the courts have to go through this best interest analysis when there's litigation. And one of the best interest factors is usually about abuse or abuse evidence. And then one of the factors is the friendly parent factor, where you have to get along and collaborate. And because the best interest factors are supposed to be equally considered or equally weighted when they do their analysis, so many times the abuse evidence is just canceled out by the friendly parent factor, which is like where the alienation concept and the related concepts get in there. And so the courts are like, well, yeah, he may have strangled you, but it wasn't the kid. So they're looking at, abuse to the partner is not really connected to potential abuse to the children, which is wrong. Like, we know that that's a really bad way to look at an abuser's behavior. And then more importantly, or as importantly, the statute says you have to look at the friendly parent factor as equally important. Well, if you have been being abused, it's really, it's unrealistic and ethically wrong to demand that the person who's being abused cooperates and is friendly and gets along with the person who's harming them and their kids. But courts, these things cancel each other out. So like sometimes they'll consider the abuse evidence.
The other part is, I just want to say, Danielle, that the other part is the judge has the right to throw anything out. I mean, I could come into court with my gung ho. Okay, say for instance, in a real like lovely world situation that I was in, because this is the only state that I know that's actually doing this, because I worked there as an ER nurse. I was in New Jersey. I was like, hello, I was strangled. Here's my documentation from the state nurses that are now doing that. And then this lovely ER actually did a CTA in my neck. And here's all my documentation. And here's actually I call it the Hollywood ticket, because in New Jersey, you can actually do a non-fatal strangulation exam up to 10 days after post-strangulation. And most women, dark skin, light skin, whatever skin color they are, you don't see a damn thing on them, okay? But the state nurses have like the UVA lights. That's a whole. No, this is one state, okay? And what happens is they have a non-strangulate or a non-fatal strangulation or a strangulation case. The state nurse comes and does a full forensic exam. I don't know if you guys know how in detail those forensic exams are, but they're like very, very detailed. But here's the kick on the side: when you bring that into family court, the judge does not have to even admit it, look at it. He could wipe his ass with a make it paper airplane. He does not have to. That's the problem where we're having. You have the criminal court saying, hey, look, this guy just got, and actually in Jersey, they will arrest them and charge them with a felony. But in the other part, that, like I call it the Hollywood ticket, that state nurse exam, I know this for a fact because I work with state nurses and they have told me that piece of paper is evidence and clear-cut enough evidence to take to the police and have them hand it to them and say, you get an automatic restraining order. Huge. But this is one state, and it's not really happening because this is also like these, trying to think of like where I was working, these strangulation cases are probably not happening in family court. Let's just put it that way. They're probably not there yet, okay? They're probably just trying to get away. He's probably, like, who knows? They're probably not litigating in family court yet. So it's not really trying to get it into their case, but it should be. It should be in every state. It's not. I can tell you that it's a felony charge in every state because I looked it up the one day, like, let's see how many states have strangulation. And it goes from strangulation felony A to G. I don't know what that means. I'm going to put it on my list of things to look up. And the prosecutors, because these prosecutors, the Hope people were like, well, we prosecute these people. They were prosecutors and they never heard of Kayden's Law, number one. Number two, they never were looking at the family court side of it. They were only on the criminal court. And I was like, we got a lot of work to do because I don't know how to change that, but that's huge. If you're like and they're talking about how they're looking at homicide pictures and details, and they're going to autopsies and telling us how, like, you can, like, there used to be like a chokehold in the police station, like in the police used to do each other to take it like trying to take someone down, like the Hulk Hogan headlock. And they had to ban it. because the surface area of them putting their hand around their neck, there was never a mark, but they would make these people pass out, and they would almost kill them. And they said in their research that there's usually never any bruising to see, nothing on any of them. And the only thing that you ever see is after, like, post-mortem. You'll see post-mortem bruising because it happens so fast that the body doesn't have time to bruise. That's how dangerous strangulation is, and that's how we somehow need to get it into, and we're going to have to think about this, how to do this, Danielle, because all of the women that we've talked to are saying, I've been strangled, and they may not have the same results. In North Carolina or whatever state you are, they don't have state nurses. Like, they don't have people doing those forensic exams. And Jersey's the only one doing it. So we're so far behind. We're coming up on the technology and the evidence and the science and all that up here, but we're not practicing it down here. And it's like it doesn't count. So it's like really...
Yeah.
They say you have an 800% chance of being murdered if you were strangled. Think about that. 800%. We look back at all the women that we kind of know that were maybe died a couple weeks later after reporting strangulation. Nobody's probably looking at their autopsies for these signs and symptoms that may have shown up.
Well, I know that this is not related to family court, but I know that the Gabby Petito Foundation is working on strangulation because that's that
was her cause of death. I bet you there wasn't a mark on that girl's body until they probably had to do an autopsy on her. But I don't know, Hope. I don't know your story that well. I mean, were you strangled at any point?
Yeah, I strangled, threw a knife at me and stabbed my leg. So I have I still have a scar on my leg with that will always be there.
Like, I don't know if you can see this. That's from being smashed in the face with a Playtex bottle. That cost me 6 stitches right there. But again, like, I don't like to talk about what happened to me, because when you look at what they did to our children,
I know, but they are simultaneously. We need to fix both, because in filicide research, domestic violence is the first safety factor. If there's domestic violence there in a family court case or a family dynamic, there's way higher risk of filicide. They are intertwined.
That's in the case law finding, and people use the findings in the court in their argumentation. Even if it's not enacted in their state, they can use the findings, and some of we have included those kind of research findings in the federal law. So I just be sure to go and look at that. It's Title 15 in VAWA, and you can grab the findings from there and put it in your argumentation or in your pleading sometimes. And sometimes just the things like that can help the courts who are very poorly trained or badly trained understand some basic things that we all know in the news field.
Danielle, can I ask you, how does National Safe Parents organization engage with families, legal professionals, and lawmakers to build better protective processes? So I know there's the National Safe Parents organization, and then each state is doing their own Safe Parents organization. Like, I guess, how do you come together, and how did you come about?
Yeah, we formed right as the federal Kayden's law was what we thought was going to come into enforcement and be enacted in Congress, because I could see that if we could get the federal law through, we still would need to get it enacted in each individual state. So that's when we formed, right as it was coming on late in 2022. And we hold a monthly live virtual session for everybody who signed up as a member. There's no cost or anything to members. And so each month we invite, guests like we had on for you guys during the filicide focus session. But we often talk about like policy and legislation and what is happening in states. And then once you're in the community, which you can register on our homepage on our website, nationalsafeparents.org, you can then go in your state group. So you can request to be in your state group, and inside there you can connect with and collaborate with other advocates in your state. And then I, as a policy expert at the center, try to be as open as I can to communicate with as many advocates as I can who want to help get it enacted in their state. And I come in and technical assistance and meet with state lawmakers with advocates. So advocates are, they're on the ground there on the front lines, and they can ask their state lawmakers as constituents of the state. They can say, hey, I have this, I want to work on this issue. Will you work on it with me, state lawmaker? And then once those meetings are set, a lot of times advocates will invite me in to come and sort of help explain the technical aspects or answer questions if lawmakers have it. So the advocates can tell, their firsthand lived experience. I can tell them what we're trying to accomplish in policy and any challenges they may face or whatever. And then together, we work through a process. I mean, sometimes it can take several legislative sessions to really get to the end, but we'll help with, drafting and consultation. We'll just help prepare lawmakers so that they understand, how to defend the bills and how to get, co-sponsors signed on, and hopefully get it all the way across the finish line without bad amendments being attacked on along the way, which sometimes tries to happen from opposition groups. And so I'm trying to be there to really provide guidance to them to understand what the process is. And then advocates are equally essential. They're testifying in legislative hearings on the bills so that the public and the lawmakers really understand firsthand what is happening in their state, because most of them don't know. I mean, lawmakers are appalled when they understand what's happening in family court. And of course, in Arizona, where your case was...
Yeah, they were appalled when I talked to senators. They were like, what are you talking about? Your thing is, because my whole file is still sealed. I can't see it. So we're looking in, I can't see it. They sealed it. So I'm working with people that are high up that are trying to unseal it for me. And like senators, legislators, they're like, they're hiding something. Something is fishy. Something happened that they don't want to have oversight for. And,
Yep. Were you ordered into shared custody? Like, what was your custody arrangement at the time?
Yeah, so it was, we were working through, and it was temporary orders. After his psychiatric hold for 9 days, we went to a temporary orders hearing because I had emergency temporary orders put in place because he put them in danger, because he was with them and he called 911 on himself and had suicidal and homicidal ideation, as well as he was, going through a severe crises. He was hearing voices and speaking of demons and cults and all kinds of crazy stuff. So we went to that emergency temporary orders hearing, and I stated, I want him to have supervised visits with the children until he is, stable enough and there's evidence that proves that he's okay to be with them. I never wanted to take full custody away from him. I just wanted them to be safe.
Yeah.
The judge completely ignored everything that I said, all the evidence. He didn't even look at the evidence, put his word for everything. It was all like his word. And even in the temporary orders, when he granted unsupervised 50-50 custody, just 2 weeks after his psychiatric 9-day hold, he put in there that, well, it was his first time having a psychiatric episode. Well, that's the number one risk there. The first time is the worst time. It's not supposed to be like, oh, it just happened once. No, that's when you need to pay attention, because they say that 1/4 of patients with psychiatric psychosis, like he had bipolar with psychosis, will relapse within 6 months, and then 40% relapse within 2 years, and then 60% relapse within 4 years. So these judges need to understand how mental illness really plays a factor, and that's what I'm trying to do in Arizona, is make sure that they have to follow these step-by-step protocols when there's mental illness and not just ignore it, because yes, domestic violence in my case, and that's a huge factor in what happened, but also there was huge warning red flags flashing of mental illness. Why would you put children with someone that is not stable, can't even take care of himself?
Yeah. I think that's that's so important. And I know Kathie was asking for her ex to have, be assessed too. But I think the difficulty from a policy perspective is you don't want to, have courts just sort of blanket, not, give kids to anybody with any mental health condition, because lots of survivors suffer from PTSD and related issues from the abuse. And so in order to limit, you have to be very specific. Like those kinds of things are high risk, but we don't, like all things in policy, you have to be careful to not, go too broad, because
Well, I always say you can be mentally ill all you want, because most of us probably are, right? It's a matter of, are you safe and mentally ill? That's how you draw the line.
Statistically, it's like 3% of people that are mentally ill that have violent tendency. 3%.
Yeah.
So it's very rare, but it happens.
But the problem is, how do you get courts to understand that? They don't even understand abuse evidence yet. How are they going to understand mental health conditions? And if they're always relying on these outside experts who are paid, you're going to have some problems, as we know from like custody evaluators who buy into these problematic, unscientific concepts that get introduced into these cases. So the training is really important. I know a lot of people are like, oh, training is not going to do anything. But, they're not trained at all in most cases.
You need to do something. Again, something with a nut.
Yeah. I mean, and the training has to be good. It has to be, in depth. The problem is they have had a little bit of training, but it's a lot of training into these garbage concepts, that minimize abuse evidence or the validity of abuse. And they need good, trainings that are based on what we know about abuse and, personality disorders and suicidality, and then risk to children and intersection, and so we're developing those trainings at the center. We have the course of control one done, and courts get that.
Arizona is working with you they're doing something. So watch out for that.
Yeah. We're doing the child sexual abuse one now too. So we're doing, under Kayden's law, there's 8 categories that courts have to be trained in. So we're doing those 8 categories so that as these laws come on the books in states, states say to me, well, who is doing really high quality gold standard trainings? And I wished someone had done them, but I kept saying to Professor Meyer, I was like, we have to build them because they just don't exist. I mean, there are some good trainings around, but they're like very 101. They're mostly only about intimate partner violence. They're not about the intersection with child abuse, and they're not specific to like the problems that are in family court, because the family court is a unique little subculture.
Well, I think the strangulation people need to get on board and start a family court section of the strangulation, because I'm sitting there like, how are you guys just sitting here talking about being prosecutors? And I'm like, name one dad that's a felon from strangling anyone. I can't name one. Like, I mean, I was like, I don't know what stranglers you're talking about here, but none of the ones I know.
Yeah, that's criminal. I mean, they work in the criminal system, and we have all these silos in the systems, right? We have the criminal system is largely cut off from the family court system, is largely cut off from the child welfare system, the dependency courts. You're trying to break through some of those silos and get those systems to talk to each other more. But historically, they've been built to be in these 3 separate tracks. But if you have somebody who's strangling and getting, arrested over in the criminal side, then the family court needs to know that, and so does child welfare. And child welfare that information needs to get into family court. If like someone's been indicated for child sexual abuse, say, that information records need to come into litigation.
We all need to talk together, because in my case, my protection order was in civil court for me, from the protection order that I put against him. And then I tried to put the kids on, and they said, oh, well, you can't because it's a family court matter. And I tried, and I got denied. And so the civil court for my protection order never talked to family court, never like.
Exactly. So you have all this information and data from these different systems, but it's kept trapped in within the system. And family court, when they're doing an analysis about where it's good to place a child, they need to have all that information. And the Pennsylvania Kayden's law does kind of break through some of those barriers, especially with the child welfare stuff. Like if you're indicated for physical or sexual abuse in child welfare, that information has to come into the consideration in family court. And people were worried about that. People were worried about that because child welfare gets it wrong a lot of times, but they mostly get it wrong in like failure to protect and neglect that's related to poverty stuff. So we did it in a very narrow way that it would just be, for physical or sexual abuse, which is pretty clearly abuse. And honestly, it's very hard that child welfare indicates you for those things if you're totally not abusing. I mean, I'm not saying it never happens, but for the most part, those cases are pretty high risk. And so the family courts need to know that. And they also need to know what, if you have, and this is in the federal Kayden's law, if you have arrests, charges, convictions for family violence of any sort, the family courts have to consider that abuse evidence, even if it's passed in the long time in the past. And that's under the federal Kayden's law. And as we go in state, we're getting that included. And there's also for protection orders. And we've had some debate about that within the field because some survivor advocacy groups have said, well, you don't want to put protection orders because sometimes survivors get dinged with them or they get protection orders put on them, which
that's where you gotta come and be like, let's think this out. Why does this survivor have a protection order against them? Like,
because abusers try to, misuse the system.
Oh, I know. But they gotta be able to tell a difference between someone defending themselves, because I know that a lot of the ladies that I work, or the women that I worked with, would get simple assault. Remember Barry went on Nightline and said, then everyone's gonna end up in foster care.
But the thing is, if you get like a conviction for simple assault, it's usually because you pled down to something that's much worse.
Yep.
And like, if the family courts don't have that information, how are they going to do a real like good analysis of what's safe for the child? They're not going to be able to. And so, and it's not dispositive. Kayden's law doesn't say like, if you have a protection order, then you can't have custody. But it is saying you have to look at that information and include it in your analysis because courts need to know that, for goodness sakes,
Is there anything in regards to mental illness or anything in Kayden's law in regards to that? Or haven't you guys touched on that, or are you not touching?
Well, let's say,
Go ahead, Kathie.
Sorry. No, I just say that a lot of people come to me and with Kayden's story, sorry, I can't sit there and say that I had an abuse factor, a sexual abuse factor. He had hurt me, but he had never hurt her until he killed her. Does that make sense? So for me, the whole aspect of Kayden's law,
100% with me too. Brock only hurt.
Yeah. So it's like people are like, you can't, like, they're abusive, but they weren't abusive to you, or they weren't abusive to her.
But that matters. That's a huge risk factor.
But I was like, well,
Brock, I didn't realize that. I don't know if you knew that. I didn't know.
Kind of high on probably the other side of the Kayden's law aspect of the mental part of it. Like, there's something not right here, and I don't know what we even call that in Kayden's law, but it was hard for me to say we need this law because he's abusive and he was abusive and we need to protect these kids from these abusive men when he wasn't hurting her, but there was something seriously not right with this man. And that's where I still to this day stand very strongly. Like, not all of them are going to put you in chokeholds and strangle you and stab you and burn. I mean, a lot of them are just very manipulative, the whole course of all of that. That plays a huge part in abuse and what they are what it may come down to. So
yeah,
for me, everyone that asks me about my case, they always want to know, well, what happened? I don't have anything to say other than the dude was like cuckoo for Cocoa Pops, and he had been like that his whole life. So it wasn't like, it was like people like, well, you pushed him. I'm like, well, here's something. I was in court for, I don't know, however many years, and I still don't want to kill kids. So there was kind of a difference there. I still don't bite people's ears off. Like, when I get mad at Danielle, like, I don't attack her with like a pool stick. I don't bite her ear off. Like, I don't want to beat her with dumbbells. Like, I don't want to shoot her. Like,
thankfully,
there's a difference between people that have normal, like, people are like, well, you can't force anyone to kill somebody. And if I sat there in front of a jury of my 12 peers and they were like, oh, well, yeah, you're right. We see what happened here. He pushed her to do it. Oh, no, like, not guilty. Like, that would never happen. Like, they don't, but like, where it comes down between men and women, that's like a whole nother like sexism thing in our country where like we'll be blamed for the emotional aspect of it, and they'll just be blamed for like the logical part of it. And people like still to this day give Jeff or let Jeff off of the hook for doing what he did. And I'm blamed for pushing him to do it. But yet, when you see or hear my whole story, you'll realize that that man put me through way much more hell, and I still didn't come out on the other end trying to kill kids. And I still, to this day, after all the crap that I've been through the past 8 years, I'm still not going to bite you, Hope. Still not going to bite your ear off. And I'm still not going to beat kids. I'm not going to try to kill them. I'm not going to strangle them. I'm not going to molest them. I'm not going to do any of that, because I may not be a normal human, but I'm not a unhealthy, mentally ill human. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important. And when we were working on early drafts of Kayden's Law, I met with a lot of judges and talked to them about trying to include a provision that would address, like a cluster B personality, the disordered stuff, that's really high risk. Yeah. And I got a lot of pushback from judges, and there was a lot of concern that courts would not be ready or able or trained enough to determine or assess who was like genuinely like had a personality disorder and was very aggressive versus like who just like had PTSD or had these other things, which to me sounds kind of crazy. I mean, they should be able to have some basic training to, and if a mental health professional has concluded that they, are on the scales to meet the threshold for narcissistic personality disorder and they're high risk or they're psychopathic, that information should be considered.
Exactly. And that needs to at least be looked at, because none of that stuff was looked at. The judge never looked at any of his psychiatric notes from the facility that he was in. Like, that's what I'm saying. In my case, I want to change that, at least in Arizona.
I had an entire mental health evaluation that I paid millions of dollars for too. And we all know to this day why they're done and why they're not read.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to.
Well, I just feel like they need to be read. And in his case, like it wasn't like you're a nurse. It wasn't like he was in there for a 72-hour hold. He was in there for 9 days, and the facility kept saying over and over and over in their paperwork that they wouldn't release him because he was a danger to himself and a danger to the community. They only released him when he was in the care of and
the judge never read that?
Correct. The judge never read any of this information.
They just
Why?
they didn't read it, or they just didn't consider it serious risk.
He didn't read it. He didn't even ask for any evidence. He like I said, took Brock's word for everything. So Brock said, yes, I'm taking medication. I was hospitalized for bipolar, but he never said I had bipolar with psychosis. And the judge never looked at any evidence to confirm what his diagnosis was, if he was actually taking medication, what medication he was taking, what the psychiatrist was saying. None of this information was ever looked at.
And you tried to admit it. You tried to get it into the record.
Yes.
Was it part of your record? Did it actually get accepted and he just never read it? Or did he say we're not taking that evidence?
It just, it was never taken into consideration.
But Danielle, here's the problem. Well, here's not the problem. Here's what I've noticed ever since I've been saying, with Kayden's so the only good part about kind of your situation, there's nothing good about your situation or of mine, is that when you get these, and Danielle's worked really hard at trying to make this very specific, you get someone that, say Schrineville wrote that report on your ex, right? We all know who Carol Blaine and all those guys are, all the the Linda Gottliebs. Who are they? They don't have licenses. They aren't regulated by any FDA. They send you to crazy camp. And they come in, and I don't even know what they cost. They probably cost about $15,000 to come be experts in your case. And they'll obviously which way they're going to sway. They're going to sway on the way of the one that's paying them. Sway to the way we pay, right? But here's the thing. In our laws, and this is what I couldn't understand with Kayden saying, is they didn't have to read shit. So I paid I don't even know how much money. So the only good part about the one part of, I guess, so does not Kayden's Law, before Kayden's Law, is these loon dunes don't have to read Arnie's report, and they don't have to rule on crazy Arnie's report. They don't have to send you to Linda's haunted house of horrors camp either, because the judge has absolutely nothing in our statutes or our laws that say that they have to read them. Okay, that's the only good part.
in my case, though, these were reports from a hospital. Like this wasn't even.
I know.
This wasn't even just a court-ordered evaluation.
I know.
He also had that done as well. This was from a hospital that he didn't even read it.
That's the problem with all of us.
Real medical experts.
Real medical
That's part of the
experts.
problem.
I had real experts too that the courts made me pay for, like Dr. Weinstein and Dr. Fraserman, who I could not stand. I like Weinstein. Blatantly said this man needs to be supervised, but here's where it comes down to: we can't force these judges to read these reports. We can't. The only good part about that is that when you get an Arnie and a Carol Blake reporting in on your case, if the judge was smart enough, he wouldn't have to listen to crazy Linda Gottlieb and send them to their crazy ass camp for $17,000, right? That's the only good part we have about the expert. But what's the point of the profession of me, the SANE nurses, the doctors, the evaluators, the psychiatrists, the psychiatry hospitals? What's the point of everybody doing their job if the judge doesn't even have to look at it? And that's been really frustrating on my end.
I know. And that's frustrating on my end. We have to make sure that they do this, right? And that's the same thing that my sister said. She's like, this is great that you're doing these child safety bills and that you're doing it, Bill, in honor of Alec and Lydia. But what is this how are the judges actually going to follow it and, make sure that they do what they're supposed to do? And then if they don't, a child gets hurt or murdered, are they going to, be held accountable? And I'm like, well, I hope so. I hope that eventually,
as far as I'm concerned, they can do or not do whatever they want, right, Danielle? Like they don't have to read anything.
They have a lot of discretion now, and we're trying to impose guardrails when there are safety risks, through statutory change. And if you advance and pass a law that says courts have to do X, Y, and Z regarding abuse evidence or things that are risky or medical evidence, then if the court doesn't follow that, then you appeal them and you hopefully win on appeal, and that forces the trial court to actually adhere to what the statute is. It's not a perfect system, but if courts get overturned at the appellate level, they do not like it. And they, that's the thing. The only thing that trial court judges are scared of is losing on appeal and getting in the press for doing something horrible. Those are the only two things right now that really restrain them. And the only way they can lose on appeal is if you have a good, strong statute that says they have to do X, Y, and Z. And if they don't do it, then they lose on appeal.
And that's why we're trying to build a statute, because there is no statute for mental illness and family court in Arizona. So we're trying to build that. So
that's why we included in federal Kayden's law these requirements for who can testify as an expert on abuse, because we do have a lot of people who are posing as experts when they're really not abuse experts. And so we have put experts in there, and that's something that the parental alienation leaning folks are really mad about and try to oppose us every state that we're in. And they hold conferences at AFCC about how Kayden's law is bad and going to wreck their field and everything. And it's because we're insisting that if you are going to testify as an abuse expert, that you're actually qualified and you have substantial experience and expertise working with survivors of the type of abuse alleged. That's just like the bare minimum.
I mean, it sounds like it's so like common sense, but then you look at all these cases and it's like, oh my God, like
all of these things that we're doing, and that I'm in the position and you're in the position, Kathie, like when I talk to people about like what, both of us are trying to do and branding more polls, they're like, why aren't these things already in place? Like this is common sense, like to a normal civilian. Like they're like, why
rest of the world it would be. This is all of this family court stuff comes down to science and facts and evidence, and it's all not that hard.
Yeah. Courts need to do a much better job on assessing who is an actual expert and who is just feigning to be one or really is inadequately prepared. Because right now they're doing a fairly bad job of it in many courts, determining. I mean, I've had courts saying things like, someone who has been, an abuse expert pediatrician for decades. They're saying that they're as qualified as someone who exactly has done, has a very low level degree and 1 year of experience and they don't have a medical degree, and yet they're proponents of these junk science concepts, and that's absurd. The courts should be able to determine who's an actual abuse expert and who is not, because they're getting misled in so many cases, and then the kids are getting ordered to these dangerous people.
But in a normal world, in other court cases, like if I was to be an expert in, say, an emergency nursing case, I would only be able to testify on a case that I was practicing as an ER nurse at that time. I'd still have to be practicing, and I would only be able to opine my opinion, or not my opinion, express my expertise or knowledge on nursing things. I wouldn't be able to go into anything else, doctorate-wise or social work-wise or child adolescence, if it did not pertain to my particular profession. You cannot talk about it. But you have these people in there that are like, oh, and again, there's not one article out there in this entire world that says that reunification camp or therapy actually works. There's actually articles out there that tell you how detrimental and how bad it is.
So I'm wanting to ask a few more questions, and then we'll wrap up. Can you share a success story or a moment when the policy for Kayden's Law has directly prevented harm or change of the outcome for a child?
There's a case in Colorado who there was a long abuse history by dad, and the courts wanted to give a shared custody arrangement and a reunification treatment between the kids and the dad, and the kids were very scared to go. And in Colorado was the first state to adopt all of the federal Kayden's Law provisions after it was enacted federally. And because that law was on the books, the court could not order the reunification between the kids and the dad, who had an abuse history. And the kids and the mom were so relieved, and the court was actually frustrated, and they wrote that in their order. They said, we are frustrated, we can't order reunification, but we can't under this new law. And so it gave that family relief. I also had a couple cases in Pennsylvania where I've heard that they've been litigating for many years with lots of abuse evidence, and the courts were not taking it seriously and not considering it. And now 2 cases I can think of off the top of my head where the mom has now won the primary custody, and the kids are safe. And she, was struggling for years and didn't have primary custody. So it's starting to work in some cases. Obviously, we're fighting against a system that's been in place for really since the 80s. They've been doing things pretty backward in the court. So we're really tackling and trying to make a big sea change, and we are seeing some positive feedback, but we still have a long ways to go.
Yeah. But I love to have our audience understand that there have been changes so far with Kayden's Law, even if they're small, right? Because I want them to understand that this is why we're doing this. So
yeah,
I have like a million messages. It was just a message saying, I just want to let you know my friend has been fighting for so long, and because of Kayden's Law, they finally put the dad under supervision, and they've been following Kayden's Law. I forget which state that was. I think it was Pennsylvania. Another 2 times actually when I was working. I took a couple travel contracts after I left my long-term job in 2024, and I would randomly just run into people, or I'd be talking to a PA, a nurse, whatever. And I'd be like, oh, I used to work with so-and-so at this hospital. And they're like, oh yeah, I know them. And then they would finally, never would say like who, I never like, oh, I'm so-and-so. Like, I'm just like, I'm not like that at all. So I was like, oh, so-and-so. And they're like, yeah. They're like, oh, guys, like we used to work together. And I was like, yeah. I was like, they're like, oh my God. They're like, I remember her looking at me, and she's like, I know who you are. She's like, I know exactly who you are. She's like, you're Kayden's mom. I'm like, I am. And she was like, and I remember looking at her arm, and she was like, I have goosebumps. She's like, because of you and your story, and from hearing it online, she's like, the judge or the lawyer, my lawyer introduced, this is a Jersey case, introduced it, and my little boy's been safe for the past however many years because of your story. And I just want to thank you. And that was before Kayden's Law was passed in Pennsylvania. And I was like, wow. And then another time I was randomly eating lunch, and I had 30 minutes uninterrupted, and so I would I don't probably call Danielle or whoever if I could, because I couldn't hear in there. And I remember her I got off the phone, and she was like a newer travel nurse, and she just looked at me. She goes, "Oh my God," she goes, "My lawyer has been talking about this little girl in Pennsylvania, because of the story in Pennsylvania." And I was just fighting with him over, they were about to let the dad off of supervision. And she goes, "Because of your story, my lawyer brought it up, and they're not letting him off anymore." And I've had that happen to me. Oh my God, it happened to me so many times. And it always catches me off guard. And I'm like, oh wow. I just still don't kind of really believe it. I have this entire folder on Facebook that I didn't really know exists. I guess you can't message somebody unless it's your friends. I'm talking, there's thousands of messages on there that I just started going through. And they're all what I think I just read one saying, "I just want to let you know I've been following you since 2018. I just want to let you know that because of your story, you've given me hope. Because of your story, I've been watching. Because of your story, the judge listened to me." It goes on and on and on. And I'm starting to send these people to Danielle to try to get proof that, hey, we're not just over here yapping our little annoying butts off, that it is working.
For our listeners, for people that are currently listening to the podcast, to this episode, what advice would you give them if they are currently in a court case and feeling unheard, unseen? What would you suggest, Danielle?
Oh boy, my heart goes out to you. Come and join us at National Safe Parents Organization, so you're in community, at least when you're connected and you're not isolated. You're not alone, and that what you're experiencing is not some one-off weird thing. It's a system problem. Obviously, reach out to your local shelter if they have a legal department. A lot of times, if you can't afford an attorney, they can offer some pro bono legal assistance. It's really important to connect to your local shelter and see if they have a legal department and do an intake. If you need to do an appeal, DV Leap and FVAP in the West Coast help with appeals. And if you can't afford an attorney, but you have a really clear case, reach out to them. If you can afford to hire an abuse expert in your case, especially if you're getting accused of, alienating or being histrionic or whatever, making up, the abuse evidence and your safety concerns, if you can, try to get an abuse expert to contest any professionals who are just saying, there's no real risk, she's just alienating or making it up or whatever, because courts are really just looking at whatever's put on the record. And if the other side, has an expert or court professional or custody evaluator saying, oh, there's, probably not any risk, mom is, whatever, being, excessive or alienating, if there's no professional on the other side contesting that, the court is likely going to follow whatever the one professional or more on the other side is saying. So it's really, really important. Obviously, it's hard to find good abuse experts, and usually, it's expensive. It's not cheap. But it is really important if you have a lot of professionals going against you on the other side.
Correct. Yeah. And then also, what can our listeners do if they're just listening and they want to get involved in how to help with Kayden's law implementation in their state or anything with National Safe Parents? How can they join our journey?
They can just go to our website, nationalsafeparents.org, and request to join the community. Sometimes it takes a while to approve because we're totally grassroots and all volunteer at NSPO. And once you get approved, then you can come to our monthly meetings. You can join on the message boards. You can join your state group. You can also, ask for meeting with your state lawmakers and say, hey, you want to bring Kayden's law to your state, and reach out to me if you get a meeting with them and you want me to come and join and help you talk to them. I'm happy to do that. You can just email me directly, dpollock@law.gwu.edu. or you can just go look at my website and you can find me. And also just follow us on social media too, because we post a lot of updates and, court watches and things happening with bills and stuff. And you can get involved in the community and advocacy. We need as many people as we can advocating and, really trying to get more protective laws on the books.
If you're lucky, I might join. No, I'm just kidding. For me, I can just say what people can do is if you're in these cases and you feel like there's no hope and it's hopeless and you're just being luckily now there's always someone around. Talk to someone. Don't hold it all in. I made a big mistake of doing that, and it made me very angry and very isolated and very like, what if I'd known this, or what if I knew that? There's so many what ifs and guilt that I'm sure Hope can attest to, that like maybe we could have done something different. I don't have the magic answers. I promise you what I did didn't work, but I can tell you now that if I had different resources in my back pocket, like I say we do now, and I do say that because there are so many. I did not have a Danielle back then. We didn't have anyone.
I didn't even know there was a National Safe Parents or Arizona Safe Parents or Michigan. I had no idea.
But my advice is, there's what's it called? It's not safety in number, but get the right people, kind of power in numbers, the right people on your side. Because there's also a lot of them out there that I don't know, how do you even tell the difference between who the good ones and the bad ones are? But you'll be able to tell. I can tell. Like when people come to me with their stories, I can tell in 1 second. I say 1 second, one flat, and I can tell whether you're full of crap or not. And I know this is horrible, but some people are in this for the wrong reasons. I'm going to tell you that. There's a lot of people that are doing this. I don't know. This is not fame or fun for me.
No.
I look like a haunted house right now, so
I'm doing this, but I don't want to. I'd rather have Alex.
Right. I mean, I'd rather go to Home Goods right now and buy things I don't need, but no, that you can tell who's in it for the right reason and who's not, and if you can get the right people. Also, court watching, I've noticed, because I've been kind of like working for myself for the past year and a half. Court watching is huge, and a lot of the states will tell you that they're not allowed in. That's your constitutional right to go in those courtrooms. If they're telling you that you're not allowed in there, ask them if the Constitution changed, because you are. And I'm telling you, that presence, regardless, and I just sit there and I draw in my Barbie notebook and I draw cat mermaids. Being there for those victims, I hate saying these words, victims, not victims, the dad, the mom, whatever side, and I'll march in for any male or female, same sex, doesn't matter. Just being that presence in that courtroom, you'd be surprised how much of a difference you can make. Just even our motto here at Kayden's Corner is just one person. Just takes one person. Think how much of a difference you can actually make, even though I probably caused more people harm by having listened to me in their ears. But
this was awesome, Kathie. Thank you. This season and season 2 has been full of education of, not just covering filicide and what happened to these kiddos, but, what they can do now as a community for Voices Against Filicide to help in these missions. So thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. If you, my audience, want any more information about National Safe Parents Organization, Kayden's Law, anything related to what they're doing, all of the links will be in the show notes. And until next time, be kind and always abound in hope. And I'm your host, Hope Hooton, and this is Voices Against Filicide.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Hope.